In this video, I'm going to be talking about what we mean when we use the word scaling. Scaling is modifying the playable surface or the equipment that's being used to match the physical readiness or even the psychological readiness of the athletes that you're working with. One example that you're already familiar with is the use of a volley light. A volley light is scaled down in a way where the weight of the ball is lighter than that of a regulation volleyball. And that is done so for the purpose of allowing younger players who don't quite have the physical strength yet to perform the required skills of our game, simply because the equipment or the ball happens to be too heavy for them. When you scale the volleyball down to a volley light, now all of a sudden we see that kids are able to hit the ball over the net, hit the ball farther. They're less afraid and more willing to pass or dig a ball that's hit at them because it's not going to hurt their arms quite as much. This is a practice activity for our 12 and under national team in Salem last season. And what I want to do in this video is point out all of the cool things that are going on with this practice design and what I remember seeing unfold as we introduce this activity to these 12 and under players. The first thing that you're going to see is that things are scaled down quite a bit. You know, we're using the volley lights. Players are mostly throwing to start the rally as opposed to trying to serve it. The other thing that you'll notice is like the ball, when it hits the floor, gets back in the air very, very quickly. And that's not something that we had to tell the players to do. We didn't have to tell them to hustle. We didn't have to give them instructions on trying to maximize their reps and getting the next ball and play right away. They wanted to do that on their own. And there was motivation to do that because they wanted to play more, because they wanted to get more opportunities to try and pass and get a rally going. So that's something that we notice a lot when we do things that feel a lot like free play, or simply when we set up a drill and let them know that if they find a way to make it better, more fun and more engaging, then they're welcome to work amongst themselves to make that happen. You know, even with these young 12-year-olds, I remember them really being responsive to the idea that, you know, it's not always about what me and Adam are going to say, and we're not always just, you know, setting rules where they have to do everything as we say it. We're in the business of trying to help them become better volleyball players. And anytime we set up an activity, if they found a way to make it better, make it a better fit for their level of interest, or what we call the challenge point, that just stretches them just a little bit beyond their current level and ability, then that was going to be the thing that got them to tune in the most to task relevant information and to maximizing the amount of learning that could potentially take place at practice. Hopefully what you're seeing is, you know, the ball hits the floor and then it's right back in the air in a very short amount of time. That to me is certainly really cool. Now, we're asking the players to rotate every rally. We're not keeping score. That's something that you're going to see here. And if you watch, Adam and I are intentionally creating space for the players to work together, to organize themselves, to rotate themselves, and that's all by design. You know, it's really meant to design all of our practice activities in a way where we're not just building physical skill and technique. We're also building their social skills, their leadership skills, their ability to think for themselves and problem solve and be creative. And, you know, for those things to take place, as a coach, you really have to give the athletes the space and the support to engage with each other in those ways, or engage with their sport in those ways, if we're talking about thinking for themselves, problem solving on the fly, and all that. I think at this point, probably we had told them that if they would like to go ahead and serve, then they have the option to do that. So let's see if that, yeah. So their player went ahead and served it, and then they play it out. And getting back to the idea of scaling, it was by design that we had one side of 3 and one side with just one player. It's because that one player was going to get an opportunity to be the person responsible for playing the ball, keeping it off the floor, and returning it. So that part of the design was going to engage them and get them really paying close attention to the task relevant information. The reason we wanted 3 players on the other side was so that we could begin to get them working more on pass, set, hit, to get them more familiar and comfortable with the idea of completing a rally and not just getting the ball over. So that was, I guess, 1-on-3 activity, half court, sort of like circle drill or butterfly type format. There's, again, no score that's being kept, and the only instructions really was to start off rotating after every rally, and then it kind of morphed into something that the players really made their own.